This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to I'll Have Another Podcast with Lindsay Hine. I'm your host, Lindsay. Thanks so much for being here today. Now, this podcast, you probably normally come here to hear interviews from professional runners and everyday runners alike, but today we are continuing on a series we've been doing where we're interviewing athletes from other sports. And today we get to learn about mountain biking from mountain biker and Olympian Savilia Blunk. Savilia is an 8-time national champion. She competed in the Paris Olympics this past summer where she placed 12th. And in this conversation, well, we do talk about that. We talk about reaching that pinnacle of the sport where you make an Olympic team and also walking away with some disappointments from that race and how she is deciding to go about her training from here on out. What I love about this series so much is that we get to see the world of sport through other people's eyes outside of running. We get to learn about a champion's mindset from athletes who are on a bike or rowing or climbing or hitting a beach volleyball. There have been so many incredible athletes in this series. We will link all of the different athletes from the series at the bottom of the show notes of this episode because I just want to say, like, if you love this conversation, it's a worthwhile listen to go through and listen to the other athletes as well. Though we're talking about other sports, there's a lot of crossover, especially in the mental side of training that we talk about in these episodes. And it's just been a real honor to get to talk to these athletes. One of the biggest things for me is I love to listen to these interviews through my lens as a parent because I always say this, and you'll hear me say this in this episode. I want to raise kids who are hard workers and who care a lot about different things in their lives, like to not just throw something to the side or not just kind of put a little bit of effort in. And I do think there's this fine balance of teaching them to push and be hard workers, but also giving them that freedom and exploring and knowing that, like, hey, this is all for fun. Like, moving our bodies is fun. And also hard work can be fun too. So I always get questions about that kind of stuff in these conversations as well. If you are enjoying this series, if there's anybody in your life who is really into sport that you think might enjoy these conversations outside of the running conversations where there's a lot more inside baseball for people like you and I, please send it their way. And of course, the easiest way to support the podcast is leaving a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you're listening. We do have sponsors continuing to come on the show. However, the podcasting sponsorship, advertising, and model has changed quite a bit over the past year or so. And so we are looking for other ways to continue to have our listeners support the show. So if you are interested in supporting the show, if you listen every week and you want to support on a monetary level so that we can continue bringing these amazing guests on and having the great editing services that Emma provides for the show, please consider going to patreon.com/Lindsay Hine. You can support the show for just as little as $1 or $5 a month, whatever feels right to you. All right, thanks for being here and enjoy my conversation with Savilia. All right, friends, really excited to bring you another episode of the series where we're highlighting athletes in other sports outside of the running world. Today we have mountain biker Savilia Blunk on the show. Welcome to the show, Savilia.
Thanks for having me.
Olympic mountain biker, I might add. Big year for you this year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My knowledge of mountain biking is not much. I've done it a couple times, probably about 15 years ago. And my dad got into it for a while there. So it was fun to sometimes like get out on the trails with him a little bit. And every time I did it, I had the sorest abs I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah, it is such a full body sport. That's why I love it. I think it's just like, yeah, it's so dynamic. So you definitely can get sore.
Yeah, for sure. So let's hear your backstory a little bit. How did you even get involved in the sport of mountain biking? When did it enter your life?
Yeah, so I grew up in a really small town in Northern California, and I grew up like being outdoors a lot. I had two older brothers, and my family was just really adventurous, and the bike was always in our life in some way. We would always just have like hand-me-down bikes from our friends, and or I would have it from my brothers, and we'd like take the bikes and ride to a destination, then jump off and hike up, have a picnic somewhere. So it was always like a vehicle for adventure kind of. And I got into racing at the small town I came from. Like there were no really cyclists here, and like racing was definitely not a concept really. So I got into racing from my older brother. Actually, he discovered NICA, and we still have a really strong league in Northern California. So he discovered NICA, and then I was kind of like, what is this? And I want to do what he's doing because it seems really cool. And I was just kind of really driven from a really young age. And I discovered NICA in high school, and then really got into racing through that. So that I can really attest the beginning of my racing to that league, and really giving me an opportunity to race more frequently and to race with other girls and kind of discover the competitive side of the sport. So yeah, kind of slowly but surely I was just really driven. I really liked the bike, and I didn't always love going uphill. But I
Mm.
think as I was like, I loved the athleticism of it, I think, and the training aspect, and just the work, and like the reward from that too, and just feeling strong. So it was kind of like an outlet I could have and be strong in and feel good, and I knew it was taking me somewhere if I stayed like focused and driven on it. So I think it came from that. And yeah, through NICA I got into racing, and then step by step it was like a really slow upward trajectory of just like kind of step by step finding the resources, finding the support, because the sport is like in the US it's hard because the US is so big. So to get to every race, it's a lot of travel, and it's a lot of money and resources. So the biggest challenge was just putting together like resources to get myself to those races. And in the beginning stages, it was a lot like just with my parents, like trying to, yeah, we'd drive to races, we'd camp at the race venue. And yeah, just I was on the start line, and I was only there because I wanted to be there.
Wow. Yeah, it seems like that barrier to entry as far as like the travel and getting yourself to the races would be like a stopping point for a lot of people. And it also sounds like you were self-motivated. Like your parents weren't pushing you to do this. You wanted to do it.
Yeah, totally. I think I really was like from a young age. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was
Huh.
just because of my brothers, and like I had these two older brothers, and I was always like wanting to do what they were doing, and they also definitely got me to be like competitive with things. But yeah, there was no pressure from anyone. And it's interesting because like the town I come from, it's not like there's a bunch of cyclists racing here. Like I grew up, yeah, it's just a small like rural town. So it was really self-motivated, but then like bit by bit I met people and kind of was able to put together resources that led to something bigger.
Nika, tell us a little bit about that. I think I was at REI the other day, and I think the guy, like we were getting our bikes tuned up, and I'm pretty sure the guy was telling me about Nika for my kids, and because it sounds like that based on what you just said. Because
Yeah,
is like all over the country?
yeah, I think they're in, I don't know exactly, but they might be in almost all states now.
Okay.
NICA, it's National Interscholastic Cycling Association. So in in California, there's a really strong, big league. But it's basically an organization that hosts cycling races for high schoolers. And I think they do middle school too now. I'm not positive, but yeah, it's so basically we had all these high schools in my region came together in different locations, like throughout Northern California in the spring. So it's similar kind of season time to like the pro calendar, and we would have a race every 2 weeks, I think. And it was just a really cool opportunity to like have a race with all these other high schoolers from like near and far, and get to meet people and also just race and it was super competitive. Like in California, it was
Mm.
really competitive. So it was really cool to have that opportunity. And it's again like you go with your school, so it's not like you need like you have support from your school. So that was really cool.
So I want to talk about like being a little girl in the sport. Like, did you find that there was a lot more boys in the sport? And how would we like encourage young girls to get involved in a sport like this?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really cool now to see how many more girls are in the sport than when I got into it. Like when I started racing NICA when I was 15, there were like, yeah, maybe 15 riders in my category. And now there are like maybe 60 plus or something. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's super cool. It's so cool to see that like at nationals, at least in the men's category. Now they have to like split the races because they have so many riders. So just in like not that much time, it's grown so much, and I think that's really because of NICA too. But yeah, I mean, I rode a lot with guys. Like I didn't have a lot of girls to ride with, and yeah, I just like where I could, I found ride buddies and also like people who were better than me and could push me um and just could like show me kind of the skills and the world of the sport. So whoever that was, for me it wasn't like didn't have to be women. And it wasn't like also throughout college I had this big group of guys that I would ride with like on the weekends um and it was awesome just to have people that were better than me that pushed me. But it's hard. Yeah, I think now there's more girls that are like also maybe in a closer proximity that can ride together. But yeah, for me it was just kind of finding those people that were a good fit for me to ride with wherever I could.
Do you remember, like, as a kid, when you realized what hard work was? Like, what it meant to kind of go to the well a little bit and know that, wow, if I put this like extra bit of time in and extra bit of work in, I might make it to the next level.
Yeah, I think, I think it was a long period of just uh just hard work and being dedicated and just and training and just building my strength and not really seeing like I think I was really competitive, and I've also been like technical skills have always been a
Mm.
strength of mine. Um, so I think from a young age that was a strength to be in mountain biking and have those skills, and also something I love to like to keep improving and stuff. So I think that did help me, and then the fitness kind of like came slowly. But like I said, I remember I didn't always like I really didn't love going uphill. I was almost like,
Ah,
dang, I really want to be in this sport, but maybe I could do like downhill or something.
uh-huh.
But then slowly like it came, and it was really just this, I don't know, like just this strong-headed drive that I had. And then I did start to see results, and opportunities came to race internationally and on the world stage. And then results did come, and that for sure was like that that kind of supported my drive and my goals, and was like, okay, that's kind of paying off now. So yeah, I think, but it was a long time. And it also is so funny because it's like, even though those results did come, like I still didn't see myself like stepping into that that kind of person as a racer. And I was like, maybe I'd have a good result, but I still was like, oh, I have so much to do. I have so much more work to do. And it's true because there's such a like there's almost no limit to this sport. And even after the Olympics, like the Olympics is kind of the pinnacle event of the sport, but there's still like so much more that I haven't achieved and that can be achieved. So yeah, it's like it's been a crazy like post Olympics, not to get too far ahead, but
Mm,
like post Olympics
yeah.
to kind of like realize also now that I'm an Olympian and I've achieved this thing. Because for me, like it was so big, but it's also hard to like step into that and have perspective and like really respect myself for that achievement, because I feel like there's a lot more still to achieve, and that's yeah, there's just like no limit really.
Yeah, I heard you talk a little bit about this. Like, obviously, becoming an Olympian is like a dream come true, and it's the pinnacle of our sport. But I do know you walked away from the Olympics not totally satisfied in your performance. You placed 12th, and so like walking away from an event that is like this checkbox, like this like lifetime achievement, but knowing there's so much more in you. Now that we are so many months removed, how are you feeling about all that?
Yeah, I think it's been a lot of reflection on it and on the whole season. I think my Olympic experience was interesting because I felt like, the Olympics, I mean, it was my first Olympics and it was there's so much. It's like incredibly exciting and incredibly overwhelming at the same time. And there was so much, and yeah, the lead up didn't go super smoothly, and the race wasn't what I had worked for. So there was a lot of feelings afterwards. And I think that like the biggest thing that I have learned from my whole Olympic experience was that I needed more balance between the intense focus and like the ease of enjoyment of the process. And finding that balance, like thinking back, I was so focused, so intense for so long, and I think when I got to the race, I was like so rigid and stressed, and maybe that led to why I got sick the week before. But I really learned that like yeah, like balance is important no matter how big the goal is. And yeah, I think that I'm really proud of my of reaching the Olympics, and it was also interesting to experience how like the Olympics for mountain biking it's just one race. It's like 1 week. I was there for 1 week, and you prepare so many years almost really for this 1 week. And I thinking back, like I'm so much more proud of the preparation and achieving that than like of the maybe of that 1 week. Like that 1 week has less significance than the entire process and preparation. Then qualifying that year, like 3 months later in Brazil, and really kind of like realizing that goal of that I could qualify for Olympics. I think I really only realized that and really believed it myself, like maybe like 8 months before or something.
I mean, that's kind of beautiful though. Although I know you wanted that certain outcome. It's like I think that's what we hear athletes say all the time. It's like if you're not enjoying the process or you're not proud of the process, what's even the point of what you want the end result to be?
Yeah, and I think that it is like I've like long let go of the result and the disappointment there, because I think I really gained a lot from having all that disappointment and having that experience. I mean, that's why it's like no matter how what the outcome is, like you learn something from anything. And yeah, I really learned a lot. Like I know moving forward that I want to have more balance in my life and my preparation and just like my whole career. And I think that will make me a stronger, more resilient racer, because I think like you can only be like rigid and so intense for so long, and then you just burn out and you break. And I
Mm.
think that like that's a big message I feel like is important for younger athletes, because I also saw it in myself. Like as I said, from a young age, like I had so much drive and then just dedication and like I love training and just being focused. And so I think I learned that is like that's really, I mean, that is so that has gotten to me to where I am. But there's a need for that play and balance in the process.
Yeah, I mean, not to sound too like positive woo woo or whatever, but it kind of like makes me excited for like what you will like put together for the next, 4-year cycle for the Olympics. I know there's world champs in there and things like that, but like it's like this is your canvas. Like this is you get to create it, you get to live it. And so acknowledging all of this and then like knowing what you want going forward still in your mid 20s, like wow, that's so cool.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely been I mean, it's been a huge year and it's been hard work to kind of realize this, but I'm excited too. I think it's actually like this whole door that I haven't even opened up of like being more flexible in my process and my preparation and just my whole racing, and also knowing more of like what you want, and being confident in that and knowing what's good for you and what's not. But yeah, I think I wouldn't have realized this. It's also kind of like an experience thing and a maturity thing, because I
Yeah.
don't think you can't just like realize this when you're 14 or something. But yeah, it's really important, I think, for the longevity of my career and sustainability and of anyone's, like to have that balance and to understand. And again, like that drive and dedication and like that has gotten me to where I am. And I fully believe that. But I think that now I'm realizing like there's space for that and there's space for more.
Hey friends, big news from longtime sponsor Previnex. They've got a new gut and green superfood product, which is packed with organic greens, clinically studied gut health ingredients, and a clinically studied anti-aging ingredient that supports digestion, immunity, longevity, natural energy, and overall health. You take 1 scoop with 8 fluid ounces of cold water once a day. And when I tell you this is the best tasting superfood green product I've ever had, I'm not kidding. They have an apple flavor to it that makes it so much more delicious than the typical gut green products you've maybe had in the past. Not only is it great tasting, it's made without any junk. No gums, no sugar alcohols, or artificial anything. The thing about Previnex is they care so much about the quality of their ingredients, and more than anything at all, they care about bringing health to your life. So if you want to check out their gut green product, I highly recommend it. I take it every morning now before my coffee. So I know you've heard me talk about Previnex for years. They've got the creatine, the muscle health, the multivitamin, the joint health, all kinds of good products. So if you want to try this product and you've already used my other codes, as long as you have the gut and green superfood in your cart, you can use the code Lindsay Superfoods. That's LINDSEY Superfoods for 15% off your order. You can add whatever else you want in the cart, but as long as the gut and green superfoods is in there, use the code Lindsay Superfoods, and that will get you 15% off. All right, I'm super excited to hear what you think. I am fully on board with this, and I look forward to growing in health with you and with Previnex as the years go on. So I always want to try to understand like where the drive and dedication and hard work comes from, like nature versus nurture, all the things. I think we all want to raise kids who are hard workers and dedicated to something that matters a lot to them. And so is there anything your parents did, or do you remember, does any of this come from something you were taught from your parents?
Yeah, gosh, I guess I feel like I've had kind of a unique upbringing. I grew up in, yeah, kind of in like surrounded by nature, and I was homeschooled by my parents till I was in high school, and so were my 2 older brothers. So we had this like upbringing of, yeah, learning a lot by hand and in the environment surrounding us, and I think that really shaped who I am off the bike and on the bike, kind of, because I think there's a lot of opportunity was given to just be creative and to pursue your passions or what you're really interested in. And I think that I saw it was either, I don't know if it was really the bike or just this outlet of like of of working hard and seeing results and working towards something that I was really attracted to. And I had the freedom to pursue that. And there was like no judgment. And it didn't matter if it was like successful or not. I mean, at the same time, my parents had no idea like what this sport was. And they were just like, yeah, this is great. Like, we like getting out there too. And like, we'll go to these races with you. And yeah, there was just support. And I think they were also like, I don't know what the next step is or how she's gonna make this work, but like we'll just support her. So that was really really sweet to have that opportunity. And yeah, I think it was just from a young age, it was just like there was a lot of opportunity for creativity. And the bike was sort of my something I was attracted to that I was able to kind of express my creativity through. I come from also like a family of artists, and art was a big part of my upbringing. And the bike is now kind of like, again, it was kind of that outlet of like expressing my creativity.
Yeah, that's so cool. Did your parents ride with you?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, like I said, it was we would be on hand-me-down bikes that were like rusted and spray painted multiple times. And
Uh-huh.
there's this like recyclery center in nearby us that would like they sell used parts and bikes and stuff, and that's where we would get our bikes, and we would like piece together Frankenstein bikes, and we'd all be out there. And yeah, it would just be like riding to a location, and then we'd jump off, like we'd climb some trees, we'd like this was when we were really young, but that was like what I loved. That, those are really nice memories of just like having the bike. We'd ride it, go to the beach, we'd ride along the beach. Like it was just
Oh,
a vehicle of like, yeah, just being out there. And yeah, a lot of those younger years were with my parents, with my dad especially, and my brothers. And yeah, it was really nice.
I love that. I need to go to a recyclery. Is that how you said it?
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's called the recyclery. So I've always just called it the
okay.
recyclery, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like under Trips for Kids, which is actually it's an organization that, yeah, again, like tries to kind of make that access available to everyone, because it's
Bikes are
like
expensive. Yeah.
it's expensive sport. Like, I mean, like skiing or horseback
Oh,
riding or
yeah.
something, like, it's not easy. And I didn't like have I didn't have a bunch of money growing up, and like we just were using what we got, and it worked. Like, it was never about having the nicest stuff. And yeah, it was just about learning how to take care of your equipment, how to
Hmm.
clean and oil your chain, which I need to remember still. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, but then just, yeah, having what worked.
How often should we be doing that? Cleaning and oiling our chain.
I just went over this with my mom the other day. Um, I do it when, yeah, like, well, if you ride and it's dirty and some mud, then I would maybe do it, or maybe once or twice a week. But it depends how much you're riding.
Oh, that's a lot. Oh
If it
gosh.
looks
No
dirty,
wonder. Okay.
probably
How do you
probably
wash it?
need to
You just
clean
spray
it.
it down?
Well, the best way, you get some degreaser, like any kind of degreaser, spray it a few times, and like move the cranks so you really get all the parts lubricated, and then you leave it for like 2 minutes, and then you get a brush, like a toothbrush works too, and you scrub the cassette, the pulley wheels, all of like the moving parts, and then I spray it off, and then you dry the chain. That's really important. Dry and then lube it again. But I
Okay. Like
just went
dry it with
over
a
this
towel.
because I got some shit from my fiance because my chain was dirty. So
Ah.
we just went over this. It's fresh in my mind. So there you go.
Oh. Do you dry it with a towel?
Yeah, anything, any old rag, anything.
Okay, I'm like kind of embarrassed to say that I've never done that. And like my kids ride their bikes to school every day. Two of my kids ride their bikes to school every day. The other two walk. I'm like,
That's
no
okay.
wonder every time we take them for tune-ups to REI, they're like, "Oh, wow, we got a lot to do here." Um, and I've just gotten spoiled because I'm just like, "Oh, we live so close to an REI, which is like really not a great thing because it's just too convenient." But yeah, I'm not doing bike maintenance at home, and I should be doing that. They would last a lot longer, huh?
It's a really easy thing that I think goes a long way. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty too. Like, I'm telling you this story because my chain was dirty, and my fiance was like, "Hey, I do clean your chain a lot, but you need to remember to clean your chain too."
Oh, he cleans your chain for you. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
When are you getting married?
We don't know. Speaking of big years, we've had a lot going on. We got engaged in the spring, right
Okay.
before I flew off to qualify for Olympics. And then it's hard because we are like apart most of the season. So like 6 months out of the year we're apart. And did a bunch of things. He races too, so we were both racing. And then yeah, we're just kind of starting to think about that. We're thinking in not next year, but maybe the year after.
Nice.
And that's about where we're at.
Yeah, life is full.
Yeah.
So you said you went to go qualify for the Olympics. Tell us about what that looks like and like the moment you heard your name announced.
Yeah, so it's super different than running. Then every country's different. And the US has the way their criteria works was you could qualify with top three at the World Championships from the year prior. And then since nobody did that, that's how you auto qualify. And nobody did that. So then it goes to two top five results in the first three World Cups of 2024. And so for us, those were two back-to-back races in Brazil, somewhere I'd never raced, and then one that was like 1 month or 1.5 months before Olympics in May in Europe. So I knew like my biggest opportunity or my biggest chance was to try to qualify at those two back-to-back races in Brazil. So I really just I put it all in for that, and it was like yeah, it was there's so much around that because it was not just that we're racing a World Cup, but it's in Brazil in a country I've never raced, and there was a lot of environment differences like with the heat and the humidity and yeah, just kind of some unknowns about racing there. And so there was so much around like and at the same time you have to show up and there's like the stakes are, you know, qualifying for Olympics. So there's not really any room for error. But I focus super heavily there. So I've been using Girona, Spain as kind of a European training base. So I went there for a few months before Brazil and just really focused on preparing for that. My coach lives there, so I was training a lot with him and just doing a lot of heat training. And that's kind of like where I went there on like January 1st, or even before then, I think the end of December. And since as soon as I got there, I just like really focused in and I like didn't didn't talk to anybody. My fiance was with me, like we were both there in like this focused training block. And yeah, I think that's where it got really intense. And I was just focused on preparing like absolutely the best I could to be really good at those first two races and to yeah, just limit any risk that would happen. So it was a really intense training block. 3 months there, and then we flew off to Brazil, and it was yeah, it was super. I was really anxious about it and stressed, I think, because there were so many unknowns about being in Brazil and having these two races. I mean, also there was like I had to be top five, and I'd also only had like the podium, being on the podium of World Cup was a new thing for me too, and it kind of went from like because my first World Cup podium was at the end of the season before. So I ended the season with a couple podiums, and it was like this big achievement that I'd reached the top five. And then in Brazil, at the first two World Cups of the year, I was like, um, now that was just like that was the standard. And not only that, I was also kind of like thinking about the win now too. And that's like this whole. It was a huge shift for me to really like believe and see myself like racing for the win now. And then also with the Olympic qualification on top of it, it was like it was kind of a lot, but it went really well. And I think it was just due to like I felt like at times like I was over prepared, like especially around kind of just making sure I had all like my resources and my things for being in this country I hadn't been in, and having like I knew that when I was there, or I thought I just wanted to have everything I needed. And but I'm glad I did. Like some of the stuff I didn't use, but I I'm glad I had it. And I'm talking mostly about like stuff around nutrition and stuff because I didn't know like how what would be available there. And so I like went with like my suitcase full of like little snacks and things, but it really paid off. At least like, you know, it made me feel like I was prepared and or I had what I needed. And that if even if you don't use it, like that goes so far, you know. Yeah, it was a crazy race, but it was super cool to be in that country where they love cycling. And it's different
Mm.
than in Europe because in Europe cycling is a huge sport. But in Brazil, like I just don't think they don't have the opportunity to see us in person. And the country is like so passionate about sport and about cycling. So it was really cool to be there and all the Brazilians just were wild. So it was a cool experience and I think that's something I will never forget. Like that qualifying those two races in Brazil are really, really important for me. Like those were really special moments in my like whole Olympic journey for sure.
So, like, did you know when you finished that you were making the team, or then they still have to like select and announce?
Yeah, oh yeah. So that is another kind of crazy thing because so I was second in the first World Cup and then third in the second one. And so there was another American, Haley, who was third and first. So we were two Americans, both in the top five. So it was clear to like, it was pretty clear that we were going, that we were the team. But again, like it was pretty clear. And with the Olympics, like you never know. And it was really hard because it's not like you cross the line and you're like, I'm
Yeah.
going. Um, but in my head, I was like, I had a lot of emotions because I knew I had made it, but at the same time, it wasn't official, and it didn't become official until like 2 months later. So because there was also one more race technically in the qualification period, and there's there's just a lot of gray area around the qualification process and it's a bummer honestly because I wish that like someone had told me that I'd made it because I mean like technically I don't know, it's hard to say like yeah 98% I made it, but it's hard like to kind of keep moving forward and to kind of have that looming over your head and you're not able to like really just like celebrate and like scream it from the rooftops until like 2 months later when then you have like not too long until the actual games and you're kind of like over it and you have to focus on the games because you're like okay by now I've prepared as if I'm going. So it was a kind of hard period. Um, I had to prepare as if I was going, but I didn't know for sure until 2 months later. And then it felt like at that point it was, yeah, it was a little bit late. I was just like, yeah, well, I kind of knew it all along, but that's great. And now I can tell my friends.
Yeah. Oh, that is hard. Yeah, it's like, because where's the celebration time?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so it's weird, but yeah, that's how it all worked, kind of.
Do you remember what your parents said when you told them you made the Olympics?
I don't know what they said. I mean, yeah, they were for sure super happy, and they actually got to come to the
Oh,
Olympics.
fun.
Yeah, they were the only family that was there, and it was really special. They don't travel much, and it was a big trip to go to Europe, but they were able to come over. They saw like my training base in Spain and came to the Olympics. So it was really cool to see them there. And actually, I didn't see them there. That's another thing. Like with the Olympics, there's so much going on and so much like security around the race venue. I never actually saw them after the race, like at the race, but I saw them later at the hotel. But that's just like
Wow.
how crazy it is to kind of navigate that venue because there's like security everywhere. You have to have your credential to like go in and out of
Mm-hmm.
gates and stuff. So it's like a normal race, but with all of this added like security and fences and stuff. So it's strange.
Okay, so your race, it's like a designed course. It takes about, what's the range of time to finish your races?
Yeah, so
Like
cross country
for
mountain
like an
biking.
Olympic course.
Yeah, it's well, so it's a mass start on a like 2 to 3 kilometer loop, and it's kind of normally a mix between natural and artificial path or trail and features up and down. And each lap is like 10 to 12 minutes, but the race is supposed to be 90 minutes long. So we
Okay.
do like 6 to 7 laps normally, just to reach 90 minutes. And yeah, we all start together, and from the gun, it's like full gas, really
Like
aggressive, fighting for
redlining the whole
position,
time.
red line the
Wow.
whole time. Um, and yeah, pretty, it starts wide, like on the start line, obviously, and then pretty soon it funnels into single track. And so there's a huge like fighting for position, and your call up position is really important, and like navigating the chaos of that start can kind of that can dictate like your entire race. So
Hey friends, I hope that you are planning to join me in Jacksonville, Florida for the Donna Marathon weekend, January 31st to February 2nd. This is my all-time favorite race of the year. Look, I know we get excited about the majors and all these big races where everybody's there and it's all these parties. Nothing beats the community you find in Jacksonville this weekend, though. There is a family fun run, which is Saturday, February 1st. There is a 5K on Saturday, February 1st, and then there's the half marathon and the marathon on Sunday, February 2nd. There's also a bar crawl, which is super fun on Sunday, February 2nd, post-race. And you can also sign up for the Visit Jacksonville Donna Booby Trap Challenge, which includes doing the Donna 5K and the breast cancer marathon. So you're doing the 5K on Saturday, the marathon on Sunday. There's the half challenge where you do the 5K and the half marathon. And then you can also do, get this is pretty cool, the 110 ultra marathon. There are so many ways to get involved, and this race helps support the Donna Foundation, which helps families who are walking through a breast cancer diagnosis, helps them financially. They also fund groundbreaking research. I've been going to this race since 2018, and it is just the best. Okay, it is the best. It's on the beach. You don't run on the sand. I can't even begin to explain how fun, like mile 10 of the half marathon is. I've got all the flamingos out, and it's a blast. I'm doing the half this year. I have an athlete, Kara, who's doing the marathon, so that's exciting. If you do want to run it, use the code Lindsay10 to get 10% off your registration. And then I'm also following a 12-week training plan for myself to build myself up from my injury to be able to run the half marathon. So if you'd like to run the half at Donna and you're kind of at the beginning building blocks of your training and you'd like to train with me, email me, lindsay@sandyboyproductions.com, and I will connect with you about training on VDOT with me and building up to this half marathon together. That's lindsay@sandyboyproductions.com. All right, again, that's breastcancermarathon.com, and use the code Lindsay10 for 10% off your registration of any of the races. So 90 minutes. So, and you said anywhere between 6 or 7 laps. So like, do they call it just based on where the leaders are then at 90 minutes?
no, they will they'll tell you before the race. Like normally they can kind of gauge how long 6 or 7 laps will take. So, or how long an hour and a half will take. So they'll determine if we race 6 or 7 laps, and then
Okay.
we'll know like the night before or something. And then we can prepare like our fueling and stuff for however many laps, and mentally like how much you're gonna do.
It reminds me of like mountain running because, you have like ultra running for sure, which is like totally different. But then you have these mountain runners like Grayson Murphy or Danny Marino who are running like they're running around. They're running like a 90-minute run. And it's like so different than running in the trails for these ultra distances because you're like running at half marathon effort. Like you're running hard the entire time. So it's very like similar to this. I'm always curious about passing because, like I said, we watched the Olympics, and I'm like, what if you're feeling better and like you want to get around somebody? Like, where do you do that?
Yeah, no, it is super aggressive. Like especially also in Europe. I remember the first time I raced in Europe when I was a junior, like I was like, whoa, these guys are animals. Like it's so there's no there's no like I'm passing. It's like you just get your elbows out
Oh.
and go. And that's yeah, that's how it is. So like I guess also you're also thinking about like energy management. So you're thinking about like where's the best place I can overtake where I don't have to brake or like squeeze too tight or something, and like where I can carry my momentum and pass. But so there's all these kinds of things you're thinking about. But yeah, I mean, it's so aggressive. And that's where like knowing however many laps you're doing is important because you want to, yeah, that helps you like pace the race, but also tactically, like knowing where to attack and kind of like gauging the other riders and how they're feeling. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it and like fueling throughout the race. And for fueling for us is not like as critical as like like a long distance race, because most of the fueling happens before the race, like carbo loading the days prior and stuff, and hydrating and stuff. But you're definitely still drinking and eating during the race, just maybe a little less. But that's something you're thinking about, and at the same time you're completely redlined and on the short descents, like you're trying to recover as much as you can,
Mm.
and while also like staying focused and riding well. And the courses are like super technical, so there's a lot of features on the uphill and downhills that you're trying to ride smoothly and see straight.
So for the Olympics, how much time do you have to practice on the course or like see it in advance, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, normally for a World Cup, we get 2 days to practice on the course, and then we have the races. And for Olympics, it was a little different because we were able to actually see the course like a month before the race.
Like on
And
video
actually,
or something?
no, we were able,
You
like some of the
went.
riders were able, yeah, they were invited to go. They actually have a test event the year before where they have a race on the course, and it's not exactly the way it will be at Olympics because they'll make some changes. But I didn't do that, mainly because I was focused on the World Cups and positioning myself well to qualify. Um, so I didn't race the test event, but that's an opportunity to like race it and kind of feel the flow of it. And and then yeah, we got to see it, we got to ride it like a month before, kind of gather some data and information. And then the week before the race is the course is open. I think it was like 3 days it's open. So there's quite a bit of time to learn the track and ride it. But then at the World Cups, it's 2 days, and that's still like a pretty good chunk. And it's also good that it's not, I think it's good that it's not too long because it also helps like people, it's designed to be challenging. And I think 2 days gives people like enough time to ride it and see the track and work their courage up for certain features and stuff. But it's also designed to be challenging, and those features are designed to like kind of separate the field. So it's a good amount of time, I think.
Was there like a certain part of the course that you were most intimidated by? And was there a certain part of the course that you were like, yeah, that's my jam?
Yeah, the Olympic track was super different because it was completely man-made, and the whole track is like this loose gravel kind of material. So it's like it was super loose, and tire choice was really important here because it's also really fast and the speeds are high. So you wanted like the smallest, like lowest profile tire, but at the same time, then you had like no grip on this like loose granite gravel stuff. So that was the biggest challenge. It wasn't like one certain feature. It was kind of just like the whole track, the consistency of the ground, because it was super fast and wide, but there was actually only like one line that was like kind of the line that is more cleared because everyone was after it was ridden in, there was like kind of one line in the gravel. And staying on that where there was like a little less loose gravel was like you just had to be so razor focused. And that was really that was really challenging. I mean, you have to be that way on any course, but that was especially because it was like, there's like no room for error because you could just slide out anywhere.
How do you manage nerves about like crashing?
Yeah, I mean, crashing is just like it's just a part of it. And I think I train so much on my mountain bike. I specifically like try to spend a lot of time working on my technical skills and being super comfortable and like just always working on cornering and like just those basic things and body position and also thinking about it while I'm riding a lot. Like where is my weight and where is my like my gaze and stuff. And so I'm like always working on that. So when I'm racing, it comes naturally because I'm focusing on a lot of other things when I'm racing. But yeah, I think like the risk is always there and it's always gonna be there if you're pushing the speed. But yeah, I think it's always there, but I think I try to have more control over it by controlling what I can and working on my skills and confidence in my riding.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's like one of those things where, like, when you think about it too much, like, it's almost like you're willing it to happen, but it's hard to get your mind off of it. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking of, like, if you're, like, trying to walk on a, like, beam or something, like, you overthink it and you're gonna fall.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can like I'm not thinking ever about that. I like cannot think about it when I'm racing, but especially also when I'm training, like, maybe you're riding down something sketchy and you're like it's scary. Like for sure I have fear and nerves. Like I'm not immune to that at all. But it's like this kind of override that I'm trying to do of like overriding that feeling and or that emotion, I guess, and focusing on the task at hand, whether that's like your where you're looking or your grip on the handlebars or where your weight is, like weight. I always have these like cues of like weight in the heels, light grip on the handlebars, because I know those cues help me ride better. Like those literally make you more stable on the bike. So thinking about those when I'm like descending or if I'm racing, like before I drop into something really gnarly or technical, I'll like, take a deep breath, like breathe out, and that will just help me like be stable and relaxed and ride better.
What do you do to find peace when you're, like, in high pressure situations?
I think focusing on my breath a lot. Yeah, I mean, I think, and also what I can control, like in a race or before a race, like there's so many things you can't control. There's media, there's public, yeah, other riders, there's weather, there's so much. And yeah, just focusing on the things I can control and remembering my strengths and like how I've prepared for this. And then like in the moment on the start line or like I said, dropping into something or climbing, I try to come back to my breath because that's something that I like always can. It's a constant and it's always there and it really helps me bring me back into the present moment. And that's yeah, that's really important for me when I'm racing is just to be in the present. And that's again like that's like thinking about crashing. It's like thinking about crashing is thinking about the future or something out of your
Mm.
control. So bringing it back to right here, right now, where am I looking? What does my breath feel like? Am I holding my breath? Yeah, just bringing it back to that and focusing on those things that are just like really grounding and stabilizing.
What other sports are you a fan of? Like, what do you like to watch?
I love watching cycling.
I love it.
Yeah, no, I'm really a big fan of my sport, honestly. But yeah, I don't know. I don't watch that many sports. I know it's
You
kind
are
of
you are fully engulfed in your thing.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I also try to like not I either watch my sport or I don't watch sports and I like try to
Mm.
do something else. And like I don't know. I love like being creative and doing art or crafting or baking or something. So like I don't know. I feel like there's so many other things that I don't have like we'll watch the tour and we'll watch like mountain biking when I'm not racing or something. But yeah, I find I like to fill my time with other stuff because like my life is so focused on the bike and sport, and
Mhm.
so I'm finding myself really like gravitating more towards like other things, like kind of like micro learning in other ways, and it's not always around like sport and the intensity of it because I get so much of that. Like that's my world, you know. So I try to get into a different world sometimes.
Oh, I love that. That's good. Micro learning. I always get those ads for micro learning on Instagram, and they're like, do this instead of scrolling. Um,
Yeah.
do you have a good book? Like, do you have any good books or things that you've read recently outside of the sport that you've enjoyed?
I actually just finished the first book that I've like read completely since like high school.
Listen,
Um,
you have been busy.
I have not been, yeah, I don't read that much, but my friend gave me this book like at the end of our season. We're on our last race trip. She's like, I just read this. It was really good. It's just like a fun book, and it's called All Fours. Um,
Okay.
and I just like it was great. Like it was kind of fun and easy to read, and I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed like just reading because I don't read that much like a book all the way through. And so it was the first book I completely finished. And it was really nice. Yeah.
What kind of book is it?
It's just like this girl, she's talking about just her life. She's like a middle-aged woman and she's kind of talking about her relationships and her life and dynamics, and it's kind of relatable and funny, and it's just
Okay.
an easier read, and it's nice like on race trips. I used to be like really into like sports psychology books, and I still am for sure, but like it's nice to have something totally different that just like takes you into another world. Because again, it's like it can be a lot when you're just like you're in it and then you're reading a book about like mental
Yeah.
focus and you're like, all right, I need something like I need some fiction. So yeah.
I think everybody needs a little bit of that this time of year too. Like just zone
Yeah.
out on something.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so here's our end of podcast that we kind of led you into it with that question, but what is something professionally or personally you'd like to do that you haven't done yet?
Oh, I I have like I feel like I have so many interests, and it's always been a thing like growing up I was like I don't know what I want to study in school. Like I wanted to be a veterinarian, I wanted to be like a chef, I wanted to be um a biologist, like all these things, and then I'm like focused on racing right now. But I still have all these interests, and I really love like holistic nutrition and baking, and I don't know, I would love to like do something with that in my future. I don't know what, but again, it's like a really it's one of my passions outside of the bike, I would say. So I'd love to just like keep learning in that, and I think it also helps me on the bike, like with just kind of holistically thinking about my nutrition, and yeah, I don't know, something with that. But there's also so much that I haven't achieved in sport, and people are like people who don't know the sport are like, Olympics, like congrats, like you're retiring now. And I'm like, it's there's like so much more, you know. Olympics is just a race that happens every 4 years, with a really hard qualification process, and there's a lot more. Like this 2025 season is a big one, and I'm really excited to approach it with this kind of newfound maturity that I have around just the sport and my process, preparation, and stuff. So we'll see where how that goes.
Yeah, I heard you say that you only ate out like one time in 6 months leading up to the Olympics. That's wild.
Yeah, that was also more like to control like not getting food poisoning or something like that.
Totally.
Yeah, so we were just like we were so yeah, just so focused, and I think, I mean, it's just because like there was I didn't want to risk anything.
No, because that can
But
set you back so much.
yeah, yeah, and it was yeah, it just I just felt like the stakes were so high. But yeah, there's other ways I think that I could have like just been a little less rigid at times
Oh, yeah.
for so long. I mean, I think that preparation for the qualification was 3 months. But yeah, I think just like having the balance and like the softness in all the intense focus is really important for sustainability, and to get to the end of the season in October, which is like 8 months later, and still feel like fresh and happy and excited.
Such a long season. February to October for everybody listening. That is so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a nonprofit you like to support?
I would like to give a shout out to Trips for Kids. They're that organization surrounding the recyclery I was talking about, and yeah, like they helped me get really get into this sport by providing like cycling equipment, bikes and tires and stuff secondhand that really like enabled me to get bike parts and have a bike to race on. And I think they're doing so many cool things for other kids. And yeah, really awesome program.
Oh, I love it. Oh, let's give your sponsor a shout out. Who are you sponsored by?
Yeah, I race for Decathlon Ford racing team. So it's a French team, but they're great. They're awesome. And then I also am working with The Feed, which is a company in the US that sells, it's an e-commerce company that sells all kinds of sports nutrition, recovery products, and anything you would need really to like fuel your next adventure. So whether or not you're racing competitively, I buy everything from like my oatmeal to my gels on there. So they
Nice.
have a lot of different products, and it's really cool to like get everything in one place. So check out The Feed for sure.
Nice. Okay. And what is your last message to leave with our audience today?
Yeah, I think just like having balance in your life, whatever you're doing. I think especially as I've spent a lot of time in Europe, and I think I've seen like in my own life as an American, like this kind of inherent default to just like focus on just the go 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 and
Mm-hmm.
performance, and I think there's a lot that can be gained from inviting like more play and more enjoyment into your life, and more like setting things down, and spending more time with yourself or people that you love or something, and just kind of like turning it off a little bit. I think for me that's really important, and especially like athletes who are younger athletes in this sport or in any sport. It's important to like make time for your friends and your training. And I think you'll always maybe like for me, I had so much drive, and I was just like, no, I need to train. And I can like I'd said no to a lot of like
Mm.
social stuff or for things with friends or parties or whatever. And I think there's room, especially when you're young, there's room for that. Like there's room for both, and it's important to have those experiences because you're only in high school once, so you're only yeah, you only have those friend groups at that time, and to try to find a balance between the two. And it's hard. Like I know it's hard. You got a lot going on when you're younger all the time, but in high school, like you are busy. So yeah, but I think it's really important to try to find the balance, or just like give yourself grace when you can.
Mm. Savilia Blunk, thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much, everybody, for listening today. What an awesome conversation with Savilia. What a cool athlete to have on the podcast. Hope you all learned a little bit about mountain biking and enjoyed that as much as I did. If you want to learn more about what she's up to in her sport, definitely go check her out on Instagram. She's Savilia Blunk over there, Savilia Blunk. And you can always find me. I'm Lindsay Hine66 on Instagram. SandyBoyProductions.com is our website where the show notes for this conversation will be. As I mentioned in the pre-roll, we will link all the episodes for all of our athlete interviews that are outside of the sport of running at the bottom of these show notes. You can also sign up on our newsletter there where those show notes can be sent directly to you. I always link the books that we talked about and things like that in the show notes as well. That's just at sandyboyproductions.com. You can get signed up there. Thanks for being here. Hope you're having a great day. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time on I'll Have Another with Lindsay Hine podcast.